Well, Happy New Year to everybody. And thank you so much for spending the next 30 minutes with me on all different topics of job search. I just want to, mention a couple quick things to all of you before we get into all of the questions. And I've received quite a few of them. The job search is an opportunity for you to experiment. Okay. There is no one single right way to get your next job. But you've got to be willing to experiment with a lot of different tactics. And many of you have heard me talk about my approach to job search, specifically my what the hell approach to job search. And I will tell you, 90% of the job search is marketing. This is all about making your background messaged well, being able to convey why you're a candidate they should be talking with. And you've got to be willing to take chances to create visibility and credibility in the marketplace. And oftentimes that's going to come from tapping into your network, but really trying to stand out from other people, because on average, there's probably about 100 candidates applying to all of the good jobs that are out there. And it's important that you do things that are going to enable companies to say, you know what, she is someone we need to have, a conversation with. So let me bring in, some of the slides that we're going to go through, and then we'll get into the specific questions. Let me just go through a couple quick reminders. I urge you all to join NSENG if you're not yet already a member. The website is nsenginc.com. The membership is absolutely free. And with it, you're going to get access to our 9,900 members. We are this close to reaching the 10,000 member mark. We are by far the largest job search group in the country. And everything that I do is online. All of the workshops, the webinars, and of course, the coaching. So please take advantage of getting the free membership and the opportunity to network with some great people. We had over 500 people land in 2021, and I'm in the process of counting the number of people that landed in 2022. I also encourage you to join our LinkedIn group. It's a great place, to interact with other members, to see announcements that I'm putting out there. And of course, we have job postings from time to time, and some great opportunities are posted up on this site. You should also take a look at the webinars and workshop recordings that we've got. There's 17 webinars on all different aspects of job search. And those all, for the most part, about 90 minutes in length. And then there's 3-hour workshop recordings that I've got that are on my what the hell approach to job search, on maximizing the value of LinkedIn. And the third one is about how to create and implement an effective job search plan. And again, I repeat these from time to time in live events. So again, take a look at nsenginc.com. If any of you feel that you need some outside help with your job search, I do a great deal of job search coaching, and I do it in a few different forms. I have job search coaching packages that you can purchase right on the website. It gives you a job search plan. It gives you the 8 instructional recordings on how to more effectively find your next job in a shorter period of time. And then we spend time together on Zoom calls. The alternative to that is one-on-one coaching, where I'm doing all the work for you. It could be any number of things, putting together your value proposition summary, critiquing your LinkedIn profile and your resume, helping you with interviewing, writing cover letters for you, how to build out a target company list, and many other things. So if you are interested in this, please feel free to just email me. You can email me at martygilbert1@gmail.com. happy to set up a free exploratory conversation with you. Here's 2 upcoming events. On Wednesday, the 11th of January, next week, I'm going to be doing a 2-hour session on how to excel during the 3 different venues of the interview process: the phone screen, Zoom interviews, and in-person interviews. I'll go through all the things that you need to prepare for, the ways you can make those experiences better and more fruitful for you. And we're going to set aside about 30 minutes at the end of that session for a round of virtual networking. Again, you'll see it up on the website. You can register for this. And if by chance you can't make it, if you register, you're going to get access to the recording. Okay, we're going to do it live. I'm going to record it as we're doing it. And so even if you can't attend the event, you can always purchase the recording later, or you can, pre-register and get access to the recording at any future date, because it's going to be uploaded right into your personal My NSENG webpage. And then on Wednesday, January 25th, I'm going to do another one of these LinkedIn Live presentations. This is going to be on the topic of marketing and how marketing is absolutely driving job search results. Again, I haven't yet posted it, but keep an eye out on the NSENG website. I'll probably get it up there within the next 2 days. So I just wanted to share a couple interesting statistics with you. These happen to come from, an outside source from Zippia, which is a California-based career consulting firm. And I found that their comments were enlightening. And I just want to share these with you real quickly. They are saying that the average job search today is taking about 5 months. And I would concur with that, because I've seen, across our 9,900 members, on average, it probably takes about 5 months, whether it's in good time or bad times. 65% of currently employed individuals are looking for new jobs, and that is frightening. It's frightening for people that are unemployed, because your competition is not just unemployed people. It's all these employed people that are unhappy with where they are. So you've got to be prepared for that increase in competition. 70% of all jobs are never published in public environments, whether it's on Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Career Builder. A lot of jobs don't get published, and it's because many companies are relying on internal employees to make networking introductions and referrals into the company. The next point is the average company interviews 6 to 10 candidates for open positions, which I have found also to be a little bit on the high side, but definitely 5. And then the last one here, a candidate who's been referred for an interview has a 40% better chance of getting a job over candidates that aren't getting referred in. And that's where the networking piece is so important. The last one I wanted to separate because it is so critical, that 80% of job searches take place online, okay? But 85% of jobs are not filled through online applicants. It's filled through referrals and networking introductions. So keep this last one in mind. It's a really important thing to understand, because if you're spending a lot of your time answering online ads and hoping that by submitting it, you're going to get an interview, you're one of many people. You're not necessarily standing out. And the fact is, people that are referred in are always going to get some level of preferential treatment, because companies, and history shows this, that when companies find individuals who are referred in, they tend to be better, longer standing employees. So please don't let the job search online environment dominate more than 15% of your efforts. So I'm going to open it up to questions, and I've received a number through emails that I'm going to address first. So I'm just going to ask that you again feel free to to text in any comments or questions that you've got. So let's get right into the specific questions that I've received thus far, and then I'll start to look at the chat and see if there's any other questions coming in. So here's a question that came in. Do you think it's a good idea to do a job assessment if making a career pivot and not sure where or what field to go into? Which ones would you recommend, and how much should I spend? Well, there's many different career assessment tools out there, but I'm going to recommend a specific company that I think you ought to reach out to. It's a company that is based, here in the Chicago area, but they service, job seekers all over the country. The name of the company is Happy Work Spectacular Life. The founder and CEO is a gentleman by the name of John Philbin, and you can find them at happyspectacular.com. They specialize in helping individuals that aren't sure where they want to go with their career to get some direction behind what they do. I do this, but I really like to refer people that are at that point and not sure where to go over to happyspectacular.com. So please, feel free to reach out to them and mention my name to John, and I'm sure they'll be happy to take care of you. Here's another question that came in. When making a list of target companies in an industry where you are making a pivot, what criteria would you use to develop this list? Well, there's a couple questions you have to think about. First of all, are your skills transferable? Because if you are in a role where the industry match is not critical, and it tends to be critical, particularly for people that are in sales or marketing roles, but if you're not in a customer facing role, then your ability to make a pivot to another industry is going to be much easier, or a much easier migration than folks that come from either a sales or marketing background. So see if you have to assess whether or not you're one of those individuals. Can you make that kind of a shift? I would also recommend that you prioritize those industries that are tangential or sit adjacent to the industries where you've been, because it's real easy for people to get eliminated because they aren't an industry match. And so I would prefer that you try to find some of those industries, and hopefully the one that you're looking at has some sort of connection to where you've been. And the last thing is, what are the needs of that industry that you want to move into? And how do you start to communicate and message your background and how it is very transferable and how it can be of great value to the company that's now in this industry where you may never have been? So you've got to think through how you're going to message this. And that's why I tell people 90% of the job search is marketing. And 90% of that marketing is messaging. Your ability to communicate in writing and verbally and online, why you're the right candidate for a job. Here's another question that came in. Recruiter discussions on LinkedIn say that most recruiters focus on the experience section of a resume. LinkedIn recruiter software is used and allows multiple filters. Is this true? Can you discuss this? Well, I will tell you the most important areas of a resume, for example, are the value proposition summary. It sits at the top, and your most recent positions and those job titles. It's not all that different on LinkedIn, but that area for your headline is absolutely critical, because one of the ways that recruiters and hiring managers find you is through search engine optimization. Okay, SEO, it's a digital marketing technique, and it's in large part about keyword matches. So your headline that sits at the top of your LinkedIn profile under your photograph has got to have a lot of those keywords, and you've got to have those right keywords filtered throughout your about section and throughout your jobs. So how do you determine which are the right keywords for you? Well, you should be looking at the job descriptions that are of interest to you, and what are the most important requirements of those jobs, and make sure that those kinds of verbiage are sitting in your headline, are sitting in the about, and are sitting throughout the descriptions of what you've done in each one of those jobs. So the recruiter software, allows them to insert very specific skills for the position they're trying to fill. Well, the keywords that they're going to be putting in are the most important skills in the job requirements and those words that are appearing in job descriptions. So you want to match up with job descriptions. When interviewing to jobs that I'm not qualified for, what is the best way to communicate and sell my skills to the interviewer in order to compensate for the skills and experience I may be lacking? Well, this is a tough one. And you've got to be able to communicate. While you may be short in one area, maybe there's some other areas that you're extremely strong in, and you want to really be able to emphasize those, because maybe they can help compensate for some of the areas where you have little to no experience. But quite honestly, companies are hiring people based on their skills, the skills specifically that are aligned with the job they're trying to fill. So I wouldn't spend too much time going after jobs that you're really not qualified for, and focus on those where you have far better chances. Here's another question about negotiating. What language is appropriate for expressing gratitude for a competitive offer that I've received and still negotiating for something more? In my particular situation, I'm being offered a salary that's at the top of the salary range associated with the company and the industry. I'd like to negotiate for more vacation or perhaps a signing bonus. I've got a whole list of probably about a dozen or more things that you can negotiate above and beyond salary, because compensation is far more than what you get, on a bi-weekly or on a monthly basis. The way you want to introduce this into an employer who's made you an offer, you just want to go back to them and first say, you know what, I really appreciate the offer that you've made, and I'm very excited about the opportunity and the possibility of coming on board. I was wondering if there was a possibility that you might have a little flexibility, and if you would consider the possibility of providing me with an additional week of vacation, or if you might provide me with a signing bonus, and let them determine what it might be. But I think as long as you upfront thank them for the offer, tell them that you're excited about the opportunity and looking forward to coming on board, but you'd greatly appreciate if they would consider X and Y. Not a problem. They will appreciate the fact that you've been open and honest with them and you're not being demanding. And that's the important thing. The delivery is so important here, because you don't want people to think, hey, if I don't get these, I'm walking. Because there's a good chance that you would be willing to take the offer without the additional things. But if you do it in a very courteous and gracious way and say, I just would appreciate if you would consider, they're going to give it some serious thought. And in most cases, I've seen people walk away with some additional things above and beyond what they were offered. Here's an additional question that came in. I had a very enthusiastic final interview with a great company, and they said they would have a final decision by this Friday. Should I wait until Monday if I don't hear back by Friday? And my answer to that is very simple. If you don't hear by Friday, don't call back on Monday. Don't call back on Tuesday or Wednesday. There's nothing that you can do to speed up the process. But by going back to companies, you can become annoying. Okay, they've given you a date, and I'll tell you, a lot of companies miss these dates by not by 1 or 2 days, but often by 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, they are on a different schedule than you, and I realize they have told you that they're going to, get back to you by a certain point in time, but things come up. Things come up very unexpectedly. They may have thought they were going to be able to get together and caucus as a group and talk about the offer, or the decision on who is going to get that offer. And oftentimes people can't coordinate their schedules. And for some of the craziest reasons, things get delayed. And there's nothing you can do to push the issue, okay? Unless you've received an offer from another company and you're looking to make a decision between that offer and something that you think might come from this other company. But going back to companies and trying to pressure them or potentially press them to make a decision that they said they were going to make isn't going to get them to make that decision any quicker. Another question that was emailed in was, any special tips that you have on Zoom interviews in particular would be helpful. Zoom interviews, to me are great because it gives you an opportunity to be live and to be on camera. And I realize not everybody is comfortable with being on camera, but there's a couple basic things that you got to make sure you've got right. You've got to have the right lighting and the right background. Okay. Now, you can get great lighting through a ring light. Okay. You can get a great ring light for, I don't know, $50 or $60. It'll provide a lot of, very uniform lighting around your face, which is the single most important thing on a Zoom call. And make sure that background is rather simple. Now, you can blur the background. I've seen people use virtual backgrounds, and I typically, will use a virtual background. But don't get crazy with these backgrounds because they can get very distracting. And if you're going to use a virtual background, make sure you have a green screen behind you. because it will avoid the aberrations or the aberrations that will take place. People moving their hands or moving their head with a virtual background without a green screen oftentimes gets a very strong trailing effect that can be really distracting to people. And of course, you can have your notes right up on the screen as you're talking to the individual. But particularly important is having that eye contact. So make sure you've got your laptop not down below so people are looking up your nose. Make sure you've got it right at the eye level so it looks like you're looking right at them. Really important. So let me just take a quick look here and see if any questions have come in here on the chat. I see a lot of folks introducing themselves. Let's see. Can I post the link to the LinkedIn group to make a title bigger? I can't read it. Bad eyes. I'm not sure if LinkedIn will allow you to increase the type size of you, and I'm assuming of your LinkedIn headline maybe. But if I'm not addressing this correctly, just send me an email at martygilbert1@gmail.com. So I may have misunderstood the question. Let's see here. Let's see. Are the webinars and workshops included in the membership? Are they available to purchase? So with the membership, you get 3 recordings. 2 of them are 90-minute Q&A sessions with all of the members. The third one is a 60-minute recording about me talking about how to find a job during COVID-19. This was done about 1.5 years ago when we were all, stressed out with COVID. Not that we aren't today, but I talk about very specific things you can do to get more interviews during an environment that was really stressful. All these other 20 recordings, the 17 webinar recordings and the 3 workshop recordings are available for purchase. You can see them all on the website. You can just go into the webinar or workshop area. You'll see in the drop-down menu, and you can actually purchase them right on the website, and they will be delivered right into your personal My NSENG webpage and view them as many times as you want right within the website. Let's see here. Should we, okay, I see a lot of you communicating with each other. What recommendation do you have regarding dress code for virtual interviews? Suit and tie, suit without tie, button down? A lot of companies are very casual today, but I think, I always live by the rule that when you're an interview candidate, be cautious. Nothing wrong with overdressing. But I don't think you need to go necessarily for guys with a tie. I think a sport coat or a suit coat with a button-down shirt and no tie is going to be acceptable in virtually any place, unless you're going to one of these very conservative companies that people wear suit and ties to work every day. If they do, then that's how you ought to dress. So you want to be in line with the culture, but don't take a chance and dress very casually for an interview, assuming that everybody in there dresses just as casually. You have to remember, you are in essence front and center. You're marketing yourself. You're developing an impression, and you want to make sure that you get it a good one. And nobody's going to downgrade you for having overdressed. So here's a couple other questions that have come in. Now that the holidays are behind us, what do you believe are the most important things to do to ramp up a job search? So I think there's a couple basic things that you have to make sure that you've got, well in tow. You've got to make sure you've got a really strong value proposition written. Typically anywhere from 70 to 100 words. It's going to sit at the top of your resume. It's going to summarize your background. Okay, what distinguishes you? Because you got to be able to answer the simple question, why should I be talking to you as opposed to these 100 other resumes that are sitting here on my desk? So you've got to be able to address that. The second thing is you've got to have a strong resume and a LinkedIn profile. The combination of those 3 is going to be the outward facing element of your job search. But then you've got to have an engine behind it. You've got to have an outbound email marketing campaign that's going to go out and respond not only to companies that have jobs, but you want to develop that target company list based by industry. Now, some of you maybe have worked in 3 or 4 different industries. Put together a list of all the companies that come from those industries, and then start to put together your list of the key people in every one of those firms that you want to market yourself to. Don't worry if they don't have jobs. Many of them may not, but that should never stop you from emailing your background to 3, 4, 5 people inside a given company, because it's a company of interest to you because you've worked in their industry, whether it's healthcare, IT, software, manufacturing. That should never stop you. You never want to reduce your search only to companies that have advertised jobs, because as we've already seen, there's a lot of companies out there that are relying on their employees to make introductions and potentially, introduce candidates. And there's no point in letting the online ad dominate your time. So I urge you all to get those things in place: value proposition summary, resume, LinkedIn profile, target company list, and then the outbound marketing campaign. Now, this is something I spend a lot of time with on the folks that I'm coaching, because this is where you get a lot more interviews, you get a lot more traction, you get people talking about you, and you get people coming back and looking at your LinkedIn profile. That's what you want, because just because they may not have a job, if they look at your background, they like what they see, they may be forwarding your URL over to 3 other people in other companies that they know might be looking for a marketing person, a salesperson, somebody in finance. So, I urge you to don't restrict your search just to those companies that are advertising jobs. Here's a question. I'm told that the search engines have certain fonts and spacing requirements on documents to optimize the resume passing through the search. Do you know the fonts or what are optimal? Now, I'm going to assume what you're talking about are applicant tracking systems. Every one of you should have a second version of your resume that is ATS compliant, because there are certain applicant tracking systems that can't read certain aspects of your resume. Now, there's over 30 different ATSs in the marketplace today. You never know which one is being used by any given company. So I'm of the belief that you should develop an ATS version of your resume that's likely to pass through all of them, which means no italics, no hyperlinks, no color, no underlines. I've got a list of about 25. I've done an 1.5-hour session on how to beat the applicant tracking system that you can see in the webinar recordings, because there's nothing worse than applying to an online ad because you think you are ideally suited for this, for this position, and not hearing anything back. And I hear time and time again from job seekers who've applied to 5, 10, 15 positions in a week and never heard anything. And when I ask them to show me the resume that they've submitted, it's got a lot of things in it that might lead, to their resume not being readable. But the company's not coming back to you and telling you, I'm sorry, but we couldn't read a hyperlink. No. So you got to keep it simple. It's like a rich text document. And that will always increase your chances of getting through almost all of the applicant tracking systems. Here's a question about with ageism. How best do you answer year of graduation? Now, it's illegal in certain states to ask for your graduation year from college, whether it's undergrad or grad school. I urge anybody who's over the age of 45 to not put any, college graduation years in your resume. And the fact is that people are going to hire you based on value, okay? And they're going to be able to figure out at some point in time how old you are. But what you have over younger candidates is the fact that you bring this experience, many years of experience that they might not have. And it's not unusual for somebody in their 50s, mid 50s, late 50s to be competing against somebody who might be in their mid or late 30s. Okay, there could be a 15 or 20-year delta between you and some of these other candidates, but there are things that you have done that they haven't. And so you really have to focus on the value added that you bring because of the experience, whether it's cost savings, growing the top line, increasing traffic to a website, ways in which to become more productive. Think about the things you've done in your past that have particularly some level of measurability. And to me, that is what's going to open up doors for you. Here's another question that was emailed in here. When interviewing to jobs, let's see here. Oh, here. What do you think are some of the questions that I should be prepared to ask when I'm going through a job interview? And in fact, the counter to that was asked was, what questions should I be prepared to answer? I think this is actually a better one, maybe more useful to a lot of folks. One of the things you're going to get asked is, why did you leave your last job if it was a decision that you made? And you've got to have a strong answer for that. And it's not going to be good to say, you know what, things got very political and I got crossways with my boss, or don't start bashing the company. That's the worst thing you can do, because if you start bashing your previous employer, this company is thinking, you know what, he might be doing that same thing about us someday. So you don't want that. They of course are going to ask you, what makes you unique and different than other candidates we may be considering. This is where your value proposition summary has got to really, do well by you, because you've got to be able to distinguish yourself. And so I urge you all to think about your backgrounds, think about other people who might be going after some of these positions, and what is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you potentially better? And you might be asked, what is it that excites you about this position? Okay, you've got to be prepared for these. And I urge you all to put together a list of 10, 15 or so questions that you think you might be asked, and have really good, succinct answers for every one of them. And at the same time, there's going to be an opportunity for you to ask some questions, particularly at the end of the interview. And one of the questions you want to make sure you understand is, what is the process and timeline going forward for filling this position? Another one is there anything that we haven't covered and touched on in my background that you wanted to address? Because there may be things that you haven't brought up that is on their checklist and they just haven't had a chance to ask it. You also want to ask, is there any reason, why you wouldn't move me forward onto the next stage in the process if you're early on in the first couple rounds? That's an important question to ask, because it might give them an opportunity to say, well, I haven't heard you talk about your experience with financial budgeting, or I haven't heard you talk about mergers and acquisitions. You haven't mentioned anything about sales prospecting and acquiring new clients. So you want to make sure that you exhaustively address all the things that they want to talk about, and they may not have enough time to address them all, but give them an opportunity to come back to you. Let's see if there's any other questions that are being chatted in here. Okay, here's another question that was emailed in. When I've been given a list of names of people I'll be interviewing with, should I link in with them beforehand? No, I would urge you not to do that. Some people will find it maybe a little creepy. There's nothing you're going to gain by linking in with them beforehand. But what I would prefer that you do is take a look at their profile. See if there's anybody that they're connected to that okay? Somebody who's a first-degree connection of yours that they also happen to be connected to, and go to some of those people and find out what this person's really like. What's their personality like? What do they like to work with? And there may be some things that you get from people in your network that could be hugely beneficial to you in an interview, because having some of that additional information beforehand could be a huge benefit to you, and could really enable you to make yourself a bit more likable to that person who's doing the interview. Here's another question that was emailed in. I see that I have the opportunity to create a 30-second video as part of my LinkedIn photo. Do you recommend doing that? Okay, so if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see up in the the area where my photo is that if you hover over it, there's going to be a 30-second video that I've created, and I urge you all to do it, or at least give it a shot, because one of the things that companies want to know about you is, how do you communicate? How do you describe yourself? And this is your opportunity in 30 seconds or less to tell them why you're an individual that they should take the time to talk with. You can talk about something you've done in your background. You can talk about your value proposition, but I think that this is a missed opportunity if you don't take advantage of it. And of course, you can do multiple takes here on that 30-second spot, and have an opportunity now to differentiate yourself versus others, because a lot of people in job search are not taking advantage of this feature, and it's a great opportunity for them to get a nice quick view of what you're like, and most importantly, to hear how you speak and how you communicate and describe yourself. Here's another question that came in. What's your opinion on cover letters? I've been told by recruiters that they don't read them. What do you think? I am absolutely on the far opposite end of this. I think anybody who's not writing cover letters is not taking advantage of one of the greatest tools that are available to you in a job search. Some of you may have seen my video on the webinar I did on resumes tell, but cover letters sell, because a cover letter does what a resume and a LinkedIn profile can never do. Those two items have so much content in them. There's a lot to read, and you got to ask the reader to decipher and interpret things. But a cover letter gives you the opportunity to connect the dots between key achievements in your background and some of the key relative to some of the key requirements of the job. And that's what makes a difference in getting interviews. That's what enables people to be able to see, you know what, this is somebody who's got the kind of background and got the skills that we want. So I urge you guys to, take advantage of that opportunity, because I can tell you, people do read them. Interesting statistics came out a few months ago that only 38% of job seekers write cover letters. Yet 83% of hiring managers like to see them because they want to see how you write. Writing is a part of every job. And the fact is that it enables people to see how persuasive you are, but most importantly, what are things in your background that are relevant to this job? And this cuts through it. So, I just feel like, this is an opportunity oftentimes missed by people, and I would hate to see any of you miss out on it. So before we close out, let me just mention a couple quick things that, I'd love for you to take advantage of. The fact is that the membership, NSENG.com, it's free. You're going to get all kinds of things that can help you with your search. If we are not connected on LinkedIn, send me a LinkedIn connection, and I'll give you access to my 26,000 LinkedIn connections. Join our LinkedIn group. I have a lot of podcasts and radio and TV interviews sitting on the website that you're welcome to take a look at. Check out the webinars and the workshop recordings, and of course the library of all kinds of other elements that are available. Take a look at the upcoming events. Right on the website right now is the one that's coming up on January 11th about how to really improve your execution during interviews. And then probably in a couple of days, I'll be putting the next LinkedIn Live session up on the website. It's going to talk about how marketing really drives your job search. So I just want to thank all of you for participating in this. It's really important to not let the job search get you down. One of the great things about being a part of a networking group is that you can surround yourself with a lot of great people who can be very supportive of your efforts. That's important. And we're starting out a new year here. So this is an opportunity for you to do some things that maybe are a little bit different than what you've done in the past, because there's so many different ways to go about this. If any of you need help, please feel free to reach out to me. I coach a lot of folks that are not only inside this group, but in other organizations. And the one thing that, that can be very troubling to people that are in a search is nobody can answer that question, how long is it going to take? But the one thing I can tell you is that you stand a chance of significantly shortening your job search if you take a very proactive, what the hell approach to job search and really put yourself out there and let people know about who you are and how you can make a difference in their company. Thanks again for participating, and keep in touch with NSENG and some of the great things and great people in this organization. All the best to you in your job search.